Hey guys, it's me, Kelly. I have an extra special treat for you. Today on my show, we have a hip-hop, a spiritual, at that, a spiritual hip-hop sensation. We have Derek TruthSeekah. Okay, I got it right this time. It's hard for me to say that. Kelly's just a little bit too, country. So Derek TruthSeekah, we've got on here. When he contacted me, I was interested. He had sent me some of his music, and I wanted to be honest with him at first, and I just said, that is not my preferred genre. I prefer some other types of music. And then I listened to his music, and I couldn't believe it. I think he converted me over to hip-hop. It was just so amazing. I'm not sure what it is about hip-hop that just doesn't resonate well with me, but for some reason his songs just really resonated. So for some of you out there that don't ever listen to hip-hop, I really think you would like his music. But without any further ado, I want to introduce Mr. TruthSeekah to you, and we're going to talk about a lot of exciting topics today. So here he is.
Hello, Kelly. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm just so happy to have you here. This is like really awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I'm definitely looking forward to the interview, and hopefully we can get some amazing topics in and answer some questions that a lot of people's been asking ever since we put up the promo video. A lot of questions I see on there, people want to ask and want to talk about some of the different things I speak about in my music. So hopefully we can address a lot of these questions and help a lot of people out in their spiritual path.
Well, fantastic. Well, your genre is hip-hop. When you started in music, did you start at 4 years old, 10 years old? What type of music did you have starting out? Just let us know how this has progressed to get to where you are now, Mr. Hip-Hop Sensation.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, as far as like music goes, I listen to all types of music. I just love music in general. As a child growing up listening to everything from like the Beastie Boys, Nirvana, Metallica, MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, all this stuff when I was a kid, and then growing up, getting into some more of the gangster rap and stuff, and then when the band Korn came out, I was really drawn to them, so huge Korn fan, listen to Marilyn Manson, things like that, just anything that, if it's good music and it inspires, I listen to it, so it's not that I just listen to rap or just listen to rock or anything like that. I'm inspired by everything, so I take a little bit of it all and try to put it in my music. So it's not like just rapping in the music. We got a lot of singing and a lot of, choruses that are real catchy with, some different inspirational vocals and stuff like that. So listen to a little bit of everything, and I'm inspired by all types of music as well.
And I think I picked up on that because you are not just this slice of the pie. You're the whole pie. And that's what I liked about it. In the spiritual part of it, it appears like you include all religions in your songs. But you had mentioned that you started out with gospel when you started doing this. And tell everybody kind of what happened with that. I think they can relate. Okay.
Well, if I can, kind of give you a little back information, I started out, as a child having different spiritual experiences. I know for one, when I was by the age of 3 or 4, waking up and being pinned in my bed by these shadow beings. And from a very young age, I knew that there was something going on. There's something otherworldly, because I couldn't explain what it was. I was just a kid. I really didn't want to talk to anybody about it, but I knew there was something there. So, as I grew up, I got into different scary movies and things like that, and things that, piqued my interest about occult topics and stuff. And I ended up having a encounter at a prayer meeting that my mother's boyfriend, we were living with at the time, he had a son, and he was really big into church. He was a Christian, and I had known Christians growing up. There was, I had next door neighbors that were Christians or whatever, but there wasn't nothing, different about them. It was just something that they believed or meant they go to church anytime the door's open. Well, this guy, the son, he kind of, took to me, and he was kind of like an older brother figure for me. And he would always invite me to church, but I never wanted to go because I was into a lot of dark stuff. And he just kept inviting me. I wouldn't go. He finally invited me to a prayer meeting. And at the prayer meeting, we I had someone ask me if I wanted to uh, become a Christian, and the only reason that I went to this prayer meeting was because he told me that there was going to be someone there who's a prophet of God was going to be there, and I was like, well, you know, what's that? He said, well, a prophet is kind of like a psychic. I said, okay, this sounds interesting. I want to go. So I get to the prayer meeting, and everybody's, you know, praising God, and you know, everybody's basically in this trance-like state with their hands lifted and their eyes closed, and people are crying and stuff, and there's something supernatural is taking place. And that night, I actually surrendered my life to Christ, and this was in 1998. And as soon as I said this prayer, asking God to come into my life, asking Jesus to forgive me, I felt this overwhelming burning heat, this fervent burning heat into my body, and cleanse out all the evil that I ever did in an instant, in a moment. I was shaking, I was trembling. It was the best drug that I've ever tasted. It was the most euphoric feeling, and obviously, to, you know, if anybody studies comparative theology, for me as a Christian at the time, this was called the baptism of the Holy Spirit, which is also known to other people as some type of Kundalini awakening, or actually being awakened. And I was actually 13 when this happened, and so I got plugged into church, started going to church, and having some pretty supernatural experiences, and getting tapped into this power, this presence. Whenever we would pray and lay hands on people, they would begin to shake, and they could encounter this same tangible high that I felt, and I got really addicted to it like a drug. And but seeing a lot of hypocrisy and things in the church, I didn't want to be affiliated with them, and I ended up getting into some really dark stuff by listening to, you know, some of Marilyn Manson's more you know, darker stuff, and some of the darker side of the music I was listening to. I started getting into that, and so we knew that there was some type of power that existed, and it wasn't just God and the devil, that there was other stuff that was going on. So I began to get involved in seance ritual. I met a man who was a warlock at the time, and he taught us all types of deep, dark arts, and it was kind of cool in theory, but whenever we started applying some of the principles and starting seeing things manifest, I remember going to his house, and I was actually staying with some friends, and I went to his house, and I ended up stealing something from the gentleman, and I had it across the street at another friend's house, and we were hanging out at his house, and it was kind of like a little party atmosphere going on, and somebody walks inside with the video game that I stole and hands it to him. And when I seen it, I was kind of scared, because I knew all these people was involved in occult activities and also involved in gang involvement. They were all, you know, actually represented some really deep gang stuff as well. So there was also some other gentlemen there at the time, and they all looked at each other, and they shook their head, yeah, we know what we got to do. And they stood up, and they all walked to the back of the house one at a time. And I was kind of the only one that seen it, and they all walked to the back of the house. I thought we were going to get beat up. They were going to jump us, because it was me and my cousin. So I looked at my cousin and said, hey, man, we got to go right now. We got to leave. He said, no, they're fixing to actually smoke a joint. I want to hang out. Let's chill. There's a lot of people here. I said, no, dude, we got to go right now. So we got up and we walked outside, and I told him what happened. And there was some guy out there talking to some people around his car. I asked him if he could give us a ride down the street. So we got in his car. He brought us down the street, and I was going to my girlfriend's house for we can have somewhere to stay, because the night before we stayed in her treehouse. So we were hiding in the bushes. He dropped us off, and we were going to make a run for her treehouse so her parents couldn't see us. And we were just going to sleep in there for the night. And while we were hiding in the bushes looking, there was a light that caught our attention, and it was floating through the yard. And at the time, I just thought it was her dad walking around with the flashlight. And we watched that light, this orb, very bright, actually fly around for about an hour. And we watched it, waiting for it to go away. And by that time, it was getting dark. So about the time that we were going to run to the treehouse, this being appeared. It was a shadow being, and I describe it the best I can. It looked like it was a camel. It was about 8 foot tall, and it was made out of the blackest of night. and it made this howling sound, and it ran past me and my cousin. It knocked both of us down. It screamed, and as soon as it passed us, it disappeared. And this was about 8 foot tall. So we got up, freaked out. We ran as fast as we could to the tree house. We didn't know what was going on, and from that time after, everything started to go downhill. I began to get into some different occult activities because I knew that it was real. See, at this point, I knew that you could summon spirits, that you knew that these things were real, and what it was, come to find out, it was actually a elemental spirit that was protecting his stuff. So when this experience happened, yeah, I knew that there was more to this plane of existence after having all these experiences. So everything started to go downhill, man. I ended up doing a lot of different meditations, trying to open up my mind to any spirit. It wasn't like directed as I was trying to contact an angel or something like that. I would do these chants and these rituals and try to open up my mind to any spirit that wanted to contact me. Just because I knew this was real and I didn't know how to tap into it, but I wanted to do it. And that was a bad choice. That was a bad thing because the following months after that, they ended up contacting me. So I began to have these visions and stuff and see these colors and shapes and spirits all swirling around, and I would just go into a trance while I was watching TV or something, sitting on the couch in mid-conversation. And it literally scared the hell out of me because I couldn't understand what they were saying. They were speaking in foreign languages, and I would get real cold and my body would turn pale, and I would start shaking and my heart would start racing, and I would see all this going on and I couldn't make it stop. And my girlfriend would shake me and I would come to. And it was kind of like the movie Stir of Echoes whenever Kevin Bacon would he would go into a trance and see different spirits. It was kind of the same thing. He got real cold. And so basically I got to this point where I was going schizophrenic. I would see all these spirits. They was messing with my head. When I would go into public, I couldn't look people in the eye. All types of craziness going on. So I remembered, this couple years prior, this burning Holy Spirit that I dealt with, that cleansed me of all my sin, and I knew that I can call on God and He would rid me of these things, but I had to give up a lot of stuff. So that's what I did. I called on God and actually got my girlfriend to pray with me, even though she didn't believe in Jesus. And so called on God, and immediately, like the next morning I woke up, I felt really good. And at this time I took everything I had that was not Christian, and I threw it all away. I threw everything away, all my idols, all my statues, my sage, posters, CDs, everything. We trashed it all, and ended up calling a couple of different churches because I needed somebody to talk to. I needed somebody to pray with me. We were living in Louisiana at the time. And one church ended up calling me back. I told them I felt like I was demon possessed, and the guy came out and he prayed with us, and he was bringing us back and forth to church and stuff. So this was in September of 2000 that all this happened. So from that point to now, I've been living the Christian experience and having different encounters and things like that, and searching, the scriptures, searching the Bible for a lot of spirituality, and ended up finding it, and actually seeing that the Bible was a very spiritual book that contained a lot of spiritual truths, that spoke about a lot of the prophets and the seers having similar experiences. So with my studying of the scriptures and studying what is known as whenever you study all religions and you see the stream, it's actually known as syncretism or comparative theology. And just seeing that a lot of the things we're talking about is similar, but we just put these, these different dogmatic phrases on them, like we were talking about, people thinking that they own this phenomenon, or they own, people call demons, they say they're called demons or fallen angels, and that's it. Other people call them archons, So we're talking about the spirit realm. We're talking about psychic abilities and all this stuff written of in the Bible, not against it, but speaking for it. And that the prophets and sages and even Jesus himself was a highly spiritual person. And he said, the things I do, greater things shall you do. And, I was a Christian evangelist for about 10 years doing Christian hip-hop. I know it's a long story to get back to the Christian hip-hop. but I was doing Christian hip hop for a long time, and as I began to have an awakening that my spirituality went even deeper and began to transcend what I was being taught at church, having experiences and even like having crazy angelic encounters, demonic encounters, and these encounters being backed up by the Bible. Like I could point chapter and verse where Jesus or Peter or somebody had a similar encounter. And so I knew that this was something that was real, and it wasn't just my experience, that a lot of other people were going through it as well. So a lot of the things I speak about, as far as whether we're talking about aliens or angels or demons or whatever, people use different names for them. Many of my experiences are backed up by the Bible, not just the Bible, but the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, you know, Joseph Smith, all of these people seeing light beings and things like that. So I've went from this phase as far as preaching that, you know, it's all about God and you need to go to church and things like this, and you need to get plugged in church, to understanding that, hey, spirituality is for everyone who is interested, and that, you know, you can deal with God, you can deal with angels and fairies, and all these things are real, and they're mentioned of in the holy books. So that's kind of where I'm at now. So my whole music shifted from just talking about, you know, coming away from this darkness to now into this marvelous light, and how that we could be taught to deal and know that the other side is real, and it's more real than me and you sitting here talking, and that even if we believe it or not, it still affects us. So teaching spirituality and teaching that God loves everybody, that he deals with everybody, and everybody's here for a purpose and for a reason, is my message now. It's just divine love regardless of race or creed or dogma or stigma or whatever. Like, I love everybody. All of you people watching, I love you, regardless of what you believe or what I believe. It's all about divine love. God is love, and that's what Jesus taught us how to love each other. So that's where I'm at now.
That's an amazing story. I think you had it.
Put it all
everything in that. And I commend you for talking about your past. I do that with my viewers, so they really appreciate that. People who are in your position typically leave out all of that, and they just oh, look where I am now. But I think everybody can relate to you and your story on some level. Their details might be different, but I think that they can all relate. Now, in your music, do you write your own songs?
I write all the lyrics, and we have different producers who make the music. I have several producers I use: Amos the Ancient Prophet, Demon Beats, a couple different people that I use. But as far as writing all the lyrics and the melodies, all the parts that I'm on, I write. Yeah.
Okay, now when, I'm not sure exactly how to ask this, I'll use the best words I can, because I don't like terminology, but the closest I can come to is possibly channeling. I know that there are a lot of very popular singers, songwriters, and so forth that have their music and the lyrics channeled to them. Does that happen to you, or does this come solely from you?
I kind of wait to actually get the beginning of my song that way. Like, I'll get the rhyming scheme, or I'll get the some lyrics, and it'll be inspired. And I'll pray. I'll get quiet and see if I can get anything, and then it would usually come, during the day while I'm working on my job or something like that. Some lyrics will come to me, and it'll be something that just sticks with me. It just actually resonates with me, and I'll write it down. So I believe that it's inspired by higher power, higher forces. Also when I'm dreaming, if I wake up, like I've had several times, I woke up and I've had lyrics in my head and this song resonating in my head, and I get up, and as soon as I get up, I'll write it down, and I'll get in there and record it. So there's some stuff that I pulled out of my dreams. So dreams are real powerful. I try to pull everything I can out of there and apply it to my life.
That's amazing. When I was in church and did the church thing, I would read certain verses and they didn't make sense to me. And then later on, when someone told me about those verses, what they really meant, it was lucid dreaming. These were the disciples and all, and the Bible people. They had lucid dreaming. They had dreams, and you also mentioned a prophet, which they describe as a psychic. So it's very interesting how one religion will call like being psychic the occult, but it's okay to be a prophet. Just not as psychic. It's a terminology thing. So how did your terminology evolve?
Well, it's still evolving as I'm learning, but
me too. I'm still in third grade.
I mean, whenever we talk about the word occult, and as soon as someone who's involved in church, they hear that word, they think black magic, black cats, witches trying to kill you or something. When they hear occult, the word occult means that which is hidden, and we need to understand that that which is hidden from some is openly revealed to others. So there's line upon line, precept upon precept in the Bible about hidden knowledge, about seeking God and God divinely giving people knowledge and teaching them, and that the Spirit is the one that teaches, not man or some type of some theology or some college, that you learn from the Spirit. And when it's time for you to learn a concept, even if someone shares it with you years before, you may not grasp it, you may not get it, but when the Spirit wants you to understand it and learn it, that's when you'll get it. And that's our teacher, the Spirit. And so as far as using terminology with people, there's so many, we talk about psychic, we can talk about channeling, we could talk about prophesying. All these things it's the same thing. Obviously, the Bible doesn't use the term, psychic abilities. The Bible doesn't use the word ESP or telepathy, but this is being used in the Bible. They have different names. There's
in the Bible it is translated, by the way.
Exactly.
So they're translated into words that we know in English. So there's some liberties that have been taken.
It's the same exact thing. You can, like, once you study spirituality in the Bible, you study what the Bible calls spiritual gifts. And these are different giftings and talents that people are born with, where they're able to see in the spirit, where they're able to discern spirits that are around. So, but obviously ESP and clairvoyance and things like that, they have different titles. So I personally try to, when I'm talking to someone, there's a scripture where Paul said, he said, become all things to all men so that you can win some. So if I'm hanging around a church person, I've learned not to start talking about aliens and UFOs. I have to use their terminology.
Like angels and demons. This is what they understand.
Fallen angels, and a lot of them use the term Nephilim or something, So
well, that is in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why
they skipped over that in my church.
Yeah, so like you just got to use their terms, because a lot of people won't listen to you. They'll just label you up. He's in the New Age. He's a occultist or something, and they won't understand that I can take that same Bible and break it down and show you that all of this and more is in there. Angels, aliens, demons, all this kind of spiritual gifting, psychic abilities. It's beautiful. And obviously there's some messed up stuff in the Bible. Let's get that straight. There's some crude stuff in there, but there's crude stuff in all of us. It's in everything. Like, I've met some crazy church people who are just way out there. They make no sense to reality. I've met some crazy Muslims. I've met some crazy New Agers. So it's not that the religion itself or some of the practices you take from that religion is defiled or crazy. It's just that people in general were flawed. So it's about accepting everybody and loving everybody regardless of what race or creed they preach.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I've got a question for you, and I don't mean to pick on the Catholics, because I grew up Baptist, so I pick on them the most because I know a lot more about it. But recently, the Catholic Church has basically come out, or a representative from their church, and said that you no longer can have, I'm condensing, no longer have a personal relationship with Jesus without us involved in it. So is that something that you saw in, well, you were in a Christian church, right? Yeah. Was it Baptist or what denomination?
It was like Assemblies of God, and really into like the charismatic stuff, but Assemblies of God for the most part.
Did you see anything like that you needed to have a middleman to God?
Yeah, they are. Like, even if, because see, the whole thing with the Catholics, whenever they say that, they're talking about them. Now they're excluding all different religions, and they're excluding all different Christian churches. So Assemblies of God, Baptist, you're out of the picture. They're talking about the Catholic Church being the mother church, and you have to come through us for true salvation, and we are the only apostolic force in the earth. So when the Catholics say that, when the Pope says that, he's been saying it, but they just said it again with different terminology. They're talking about them, and they're excluding the Christians. Well, the Christians do the same thing, you know. So they do the same thing that the Catholics do, and they do it to everybody else. And what you know, this enemy, or this you know, this dividing force in the planet, whether it's the government or whether it's the archons or the demons or the devil or whatever, has understood that there's a tactic called divide and conquer, that I can split them up into different religions, and they'll fight against each other, and then we go into the religions and split them up amongst themselves to get them to fight against each other.
That's also a strategy of war.
Exactly. So it's being done psychologically, and you know, war is being used with these religions as well. So we've seen that in the past, and currently see that as well. So.
Yeah, the peaceful religions are the ones that have murdered more people than bad people ever have.
So obviously it's not about religion, so we can transcend that, and you know, it's not about that.
Exactly. I can religiously brush my teeth, but I'm a spiritual person. I have a direct connection with God.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and you use the terminology extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your take on extraterrestrials and your encounters, and what would you like to share with everyone about that topic?
It's a deep subject. I believe if we can kind of break that down from my terminology of ETs, I believe are light beings. We can use that term, and they're mentioned of in the Bible. They're mentioned of in the book of Psalms, where it's quoted that the Lord maketh his ministering angels as a flame of fire. That same term is repeated in Hebrews. The Lord maketh his ministering angels, his spirits, as a flame of fire. And so we see that, and then we look at this type of angel mentioned of in the Bible, which is called a seraphim. And the definition and terminology for a seraphim in the Hebrew means the fiery ones, those who are made out of fire. So therefore, when we're stargazing, when we're looking into the night sky, and we see these flames of fire, we see these balls of fire looking up in the atmosphere, moving around, flying around, these most likely are the seraphim or the cherubim, which fly around, and they travel back and forth from heaven to earth. And this is backed up by not just the Bible, but all ancient texts, and all cultures speak of these beings who have been here since the beginning. So I believe that these beings, these entities, are our creators. They are the gods, and some of them, you know, have went astray. But for the most part, these are the angels who have been watching over us from the beginning. You can physically see them. Heaven is not a place that you go when you die. Heaven is a physical place. There's a dwelling place, a throne room of the Elohim is what you know, the term we use. The Elohim is what we call them, and they're watching over us.
Jesus called all of us that.
Exactly.
You are all the Elohim, and that's why I came here, is to let you know that. Yeah. You're like me, and I see Jesus as an example for us. Not that, ooh, I'm special, but you can do the same things that I'm doing. I'm here to teach you that.
And you know, that right there is the divide, because what I try to do is take it a step further. If you believe Jesus died for your sins and he was crucified for you to lift your sins, cool. I believe that too. I believe he did it not only for me, but for the whole world. That's what he did. But to take it from, you see him as you just believe in him, to take it as far as going and do what he did or do what he said. He said, if you love me, you know what I'm saying? If you love me, you'll obey me. So he gave us these examples and these different things that we can do to walk like him, to talk like him, and to love like him. So take it a step further and not only do to believe in him, but to follow him. You know, do what he said. You know, cast out demons, take up serpents, and all these type of things, and preach love, and that's what he did. And I was just having a phone call with somebody, and this is what I said. I said, what Jesus taught, he said that you show compassion to those who don't deserve it. Show love and forgiveness who don't deserve forgiveness. I did some really messed up stuff in my life. I really don't deserve forgiveness. But when we talk about Jesus and we walk in that power, he showed me forgiveness. He showed me mercy. He caught the woman in the act of adultery, and they was like, okay, let's stone her. She does not deserve to live. She's out of wedlock. He said, no, let's show compassion. Let's show compassion and love to him. And that's what he did. And that right there transcends religion. And whether you want to say Jesus, or people getting mad that I'm using the terminology Jesus or whatever, you could say a lot of different words there. But it's about love transcending your religion and your beliefs. That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have referred to Jesus Christ, and I'm sure with terminology, because you said you study theology, you know about the Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
Do you believe that if you do not have Jesus in your heart, you're going to hell? What is your belief surrounding that in the Christ consciousness?
Yeah, I don't see how a loving God could send people to hell who didn't find out about him. You know, they were placed on a certain part of the earth or whatever, that his name wasn't even mentioned. Let's get it straight from here, that his name's not even Jesus. That's not even his name. The word translates to Savior. As you looking to God and say, I need a Savior. I need some help. Help me, God. And so that's what that is. And then we look, even in the Bible, is very powerful. If you want to look it up, it's in, I think, Romans 1 and 2, that it speaks about that God deals with all men, and that he has written his law on their hearts. And even because they don't have the Bible, or they don't have the Torah and things like this, and they don't understand this terminology or this Christianese, he said that them by nature doing the things that are written of in that Bible, because there's so many laws and commandments that would be hard for us to keep because we wasn't raised in it. We don't know them like the back of our hands. They had to recite them every day. But by nature, because the spirit of the law is love. The spirit of the whole Bible is love. So when we by nature do the things that are written of in the law, it becomes a law unto ourselves. And this is speaking about God dealing with all men. The great Christian evangelist, Billy Graham, close to the end of his life, he said that God deals with all people. And there's people who are of the Muslim faith, who are of the Hindu faith, the Buddhist faith, atheists, whatever, that God has his people in every walk and shape of life. And I believe that. So, because I heard a guy yesterday, and I listen to some Christian evangelists from time to time, and there's a guy that I look up to, Damon Thompson. And he said the most ludicrous thing. He said that God created hell not for you, but for the devil and for the demons. And that's a Christian theology. A lot of Christians believe that. He said people think that a loving God won't send you to hell. He said they're confused. He said that God doesn't send nobody to hell, but what he does is he sends demons to hell, and if you have a demon on you, you'll go to hell with that demon. I'm like, this is ludicrous. What the hell are you talking about? You're just making this stuff up as you go. It's not biblical. Hell is referred to as a state of being away from God. Even David, the psalmist David, said, Lord, deliver my soul from hell, because I'm in hell right now. And to be away from you, to be away from our Creator, to not be connected from God is a whole lot of hell. And I've been there. I was at the bottom of the pit. And I called out to God. I called out to the higher power, and I believe I was saved, and I believe I was chosen. And I think it was all done for a reason. That everything that I experienced, everything that I went through, was for a reason, and to actually make me the person that I am today. That we can use our the bad things in our life, and we can use them as a stepping stool to transcend and go to the next level and to learn. And, I guess that kind of brings us to the title of my album, my newest album, Spiritual Alchemy, is taking those negative things and learning from them and growing from them. And just like alchemy is turning base metals, copper and lead, and turning them into gold. So we take all the negative experiences we've had, we take all the positive experiences we had, we learn from them, and we grow and we transcend spiritually. And that to understand, like when you're being tempted, when you're going through all this type of stuff and you're responding with negativity and all this, this craziness going on, you're going to keep experiencing that until you respond the right way, until it's like a test. And you're going to keep taking that test until you pass it. And then when you pass that test and it brings out those emotions, and then when it comes again, you don't respond the same way. You don't freak out. You don't, turn to hate. You don't turn to substance or whatever. You just understand that all things are connected, and to walk in peace and supernatural joy regardless of any situation.
You used some terminology a while ago. You were talking about a state of hell, and the way that some people might word this is vibration. Like the source of this universe is the highest vibration, and then it gets lower and lower and lower. So would you say that maybe a state of hell would be a very low state of vibration?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's what the whole Christ conscious thing, the Christ consciousness thing you're talking about is walking in the consciousness of Christ, which was that one of the highest vibrations of loving people. It takes a lot. It takes a lot when someone is
in this world. Yes, it does.
somebody owes you money to walk in love or something like that, because we get so caught up on the carnal essence of stuff. Or somebody owes you money, then you see them showing off new product that they just bought on Facebook. You're like, hey, you owe me money. How are you buying all this stuff? So to don't let that mess with your ego and walk and maintain that high frequency, because when we're talking about angels and demons, when I was vibrating at a low level of frequency, I was a negative person. And I want to just remind everybody that when I had my experience, when these demonic beings came into my life, I was a negative person. I was stealing, I was robbing people, I was doing drugs, I was getting drunk and doing all this stuff at a very young age. I mean, I was 13 years old having these encounters. So whatever you put out there in the universe, whatever you're seeking, whatever you put yourself around, you're going to find it. It's going to come back. But now that I'm walking at this higher level, I haven't had these crazy attacks. I haven't woken up in the middle of the night and had these beings on me or had anything crazy. Most of the time, everything from here on out has been positive. It's been beauty, and I've been able to help people who are in that state of hell, who are in that state of confusion, actually help them to come out of that, and able to help them remove some of these spirits off of them that are real negative. And there's so many different ways that these spirits can get on you and can be drawn to you. You can open up doors. And so the meaning of my music and what I do, and to put this stuff out there, because I was basically, talked about, and my name ran through the mud when I started talking about these fringe topics from the church people. So the reason I crucified myself and put to death my ego about what they think or whatever, because that was a hard thing. Like, I was venerated, by the church. Like, they loved me. I'd, go speak for, hundreds of kids and do concerts for hundreds of people, and they want my autograph and stuff. So I had to, give that up and, start over. So the reason I do that is because there's other people like me who are having these experiences, and they need someone to talk to. And the church, we talked about this the other day, the church really don't know what to tell you. When you go to your pastor and you tell them you're seeing spirits, you're hearing voices, you're having dreams about futuristic events and all these type of things, a lot of times they want to just tell you that, this is demonic, we need to pray against it, and we're going to rebuke this devil off of you. And then you're like, okay, sure. Like, I didn't feel like this happened to me, and I didn't feel like it was demonic, but I was like, okay, I trust you. You're the spiritual authority. Let's do it. And they kept happening and stuff, and they really don't have nothing to say for the young prophet or to the young person who are having these encounters, or the young psychic. It's all this stuff is mentioned of in the Bible, and not in a demonic negative sense, in a positive sense. You have to learn how to use these, and you would think at this point, with the churches being as much as they are, that they would embrace it. And now there's some that do. Don't get me wrong. There's some who cater to the spirituality of the Bible, but not the majority. It's definitely not the majority. And especially when a young man like myself comes to the pastor, and so it's like God has selected me, or I'm having these encounters, and they're not having them. So they're totally confused. They're not having these experiences. They don't know how to help you. They don't know how to help you. They can't. So I've put myself out there. I put my music out there. I come on shows like yours to try to help people. Say, hey, man, I've had those experiences too. I've been, awakened in the middle of the night, and I'm in a totally different dimension. I've seen entities walking around my room in the middle of the night, blah, 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 blah. And, and everything's not black and white. There's so many shades of gray. There's so much color in this life and in its existence that we need help. So we take our piece of the puzzle. This is my experience. This is what I've learned. I bring it and submit it. You bring yours. We put it together. And if enough of us do it, we begin to see a picture and see what's going on, instead of someone saying that they have it all figured out. Anytime somebody tells you they have it all figured out and that they are the end-all authority, you need to run the other direction. I don't care who it is.
That is correct. Absolutely correct. And along the same lines of what you're talking about, some people will go to their pastor and say, I have been chosen, I have a mission, I am seeing things, I'm knowing the future. but other people go to a counselor or a psychiatrist, and they say the same things. So in the church, you're demon possessed, and in the medical office, you have a condition.
Yes.
So have you encountered anything like that?
Yeah.
Have you gone to talk to a doctor? I mean, you went at some point. Did you think you were going crazy? And
oh yeah, I was gonna have to. I was gonna have to if I didn't call out for God, like I was, and that was my fear, that I would be in a psychiatric ward, that they would have me doped up on medicine to quiet these voices and to, you know, so I can just look at people and be sane. And that's what's going on now. A lot of people are having experiences, and they're gifted in a supernatural way. Their brain works totally different, and we're doping them up with different medications and things like that. So when we move away from spirituality and we move towards a technologically advanced culture, which is what we're doing, we move away from spirituality. And so some of the things which the ancients would call spirits, would call entities, you'd be laughed at to mention it now. Whether it's a sickness or something like that, you know what I'm saying, you'd be laughed at. So instead of treating it, you know, treating the ailment spiritually, they can give you some type of pill or whatever to, you know, to quiet the voices, to help you concentrate, or whatever the case is. So, but you know, to kind of touch on the question a little bit more, I've got a friend of mine, and he told me that he goes and he actually sees the psychiatrist, and he's had some, you know, what would be called mental health problems. But he says what he does is he reads his astrological forecast to understand, not to tell your future or to, you know, what numbers should I play or something like that, but he does it to understand the vibrational frequencies about what's going on. Like, hey,
yeah,
this
why do I
Thursday,
feel like crap today?
I'm going to feel like crap Thursday.
We got a retrograde going on, you know?
Yeah. Or, you know, and, you know what I'm saying? I believe in that. I mean, I believe in the signs or whatever. And I mean, even the scripture tells us that we are to watch, you know, the heavens for signs and for seasons, and to understand, like, this was their clock, this was their calendar, the moon and all these type of things. So when we talk about it, we're laughed at this point by the, you know, the, not the religious community, but the scientific community and those who are moving away from spirituality, you know?
Yes, along the lines of technology, they have machines now that can see auras. So what happens is people become dependent upon this technology instead of getting centered inside themselves and going above and seeing auras themselves. So that's what technology promises, and that you can. They now have devices that they've come out with that basically they can create something from nothing with thought, but it's through technology, and we can do it without technology. So how do we combine the technology to have a dishwasher and to have a washing machine and a car and Facebook, but also be spiritual? How do we do all of that?
You know, there's pros and cons to it all, but I would say understanding that you know, when I look into science, I look at how science proves the supernatural. Like you're saying, there's now a machine that can see your auras. Okay, they've been talking about auras for thousands of years. You know, so when we look at something like Facebook is an amazing tool, and so they set it up to where we're all connected via the internet. Okay, but there's something else which is almost like a mimic of. It's called the global brain, and that we are all connected, and so that you know, when you walk into a room with somebody, if they're having a bad day, if something's going on, you can feel that. You can feel the energy, and it changes the way that your body feels. It changes the way that your mind works. If someone's just angry around you, they can even be intimidating and not even say a word, just being in that vibration. And so, you know, we're all connected. We can feel and touch each other. So we see something like Facebook being the same thing, like almost like a mimic of it, to where we're all connected spiritually and mentally, but Facebook is like connecting us all, you know, globally as well. So it's a good thing.
So they have copied spirituality. Because basically, when there's a friend of mine, we're so close that I send him a message with my mind, and he calls me, instead of, you know, texting him or whatever. So it's like technology is copying what we can already do.
Yeah, and it's good, and I mean I embrace it. But the scary thing is that it's moving us away from our God-given rights. Like a lot of the stuff you have to pay for. If you want to use that machine, you got to pay for it. You got to go out and pay a doctor or whatever. And you know, so this is natural stuff that we're talking about. We're talking about the stuff that our ancestors knew. Our ancestors knew all about this, and it's, you know, it's recorded for us, whether it's, you know, passed down through tradition or through holy books or whatever. Our ancestors knew this. In the Bible, like these people who were operating in the Bible, the prophets and stuff, they would look more like a mystic. That's what they were. They were mystics. They weren't your religious church people. These people were mystics, having a mystical encounter and experience. Hey, Kelly, I'm sorry, can you give me 1 second? Can you give me 1 second?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. 1 second.
You go right ahead, you know, because it's like, I know how to talk. Yeah. So when he comes back, let me see. I don't know if I can find this on YouTube. He's probably going to take care of his cat. I heard the cat meowing in the background. I actually thought that my cat would be the one that was meowing in the background. But no. I asked Samantha to keep the cat quiet while we were doing this. Yeah, when he comes back, hey, you guys send me a telepathic message right now. And what you want me to ask him, I'm going to ask him probably about, you know, like marijuana and cannabis. I always ask everybody that. I wanted to see his take on it, if he thinks it's helpful or if it's harmful. Things along those lines. Also, I want to show you, Samantha picked out this cup for me. It's We Are the New Normal. So basically, while you were gone, I was talking about what we're being criticized for. They think they're the normal, but we are the new normal. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. So, and I heard your little cat meowing in the background.
Well, that's my dog. Yeah, he was.
Oh, that was just a dog. Oh, it sounded like a little cat.
Well, he's a husky. He's like husky and wolf mix. So he's got that real high pitch. He was tangled up outside. I had to go get him. He was crying. Yeah,
you guys caught me a while ago. I turned my microphone off. It's just very sensitive today for some reason, and I had to go turn my security camera off, and all of a sudden you saw my empty chair a while ago. So it's Kelly in the Raw. You get what you get.
It's real. So.
I've got a question because you brought up the use of drugs, etc. Ones that I'm assuming you were like, this is harmful to me. Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely, cannabis is being legalized all throughout the United States for medical use. Mm-hmm. And what is your opinion or your feelings on the use of cannabis or mushrooms or peyote or any kind of natural herb to connect you spiritually? How do you feel about that?
There's a lot of people who have had life-changing experiences from mushrooms or ayahuasca, DMT. They've taken it and they've been maybe alcoholics or something like that, and by having this experience, like, they get a new sense of reality and understand the true meanings of life from having this experience. I personally, don't really do them because I try to promote more of a natural thing. It's good if you want to try it, go ahead, be my guest, but I try to promote the natural thing. I try to promote that what we need is already inside of us. We don't have to travel to the rainforest and find this little frog and lick his back 7 times and we're going to meet God. You can do that, but even some of the people I look up to as far as like, David Wilcock, he talks about this a lot, and he says that what's happening is your pineal gland is being ripped open, your third eye is being wedged open, and it can be detrimental as well, and then you rely on these substances. So we try to, teach everything is within you, that you can have those experiences, that people are having to go pay money and they're having to find and track down some people and buying shady weed or whatever the case is, and they're, it's mixed with all kind of stuff. By simply meditating, quieting your mind, doing holotropic breathing, getting into a sensory deprivation tank, something like this, very naturally, lucid dreaming, you can have all these experiences and not for one, give the credit to the drug. So no, this is all within. I went within, and that's what the kingdom of heaven is. The kingdom is within, and that's how we access these higher states of consciousness. It's not by taking this drug. I mean, you could do it if you want. I personally would like to try it. You know what I'm saying? Try ayahuasca or something. I am really scared of having a bad trip for mushrooms. I think my fear of having a bad trip outweighs my because I could get them if I wanted them, but I think it outweighs my want to do it, because I've got friends who have had amazing experiences. I've got friends who have had my born again experience, like when I had the fire and all this amazing stuff happen, and I felt clean and I felt connected. I've had people who have had that, and they've been in religion. They're serving at a church, but they do this, and they have that experience, like on mushrooms, and and all their experiences were crazy. But then I talk to them again, and they have a bad experience to where they're fighting demons for 8 hours and they can't breathe. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want that. I'm scared of that because I have no control. I can't snap out of it. I can't say, okay, I'm done. This is too much. It's like, no, you're riding with me for 8 hours, baby. We're gonna fight. I'm fighting you for 8 hours. I don't want that, you know. So there's, you know, if that's what you want to do it. But be careful. Do your research on it and be in a trusted area. Don't you know, go to a party and somebody had acid and you did it at a party where there's all types of energies around, all types of vibration. I would stay away from that. If I would treat everything sacred. If you're gonna do it, do it in a sacred space. Get around somebody who knows what they're doing, and try it.
Would you possibly classify this, because, you know, after I died, you kind of experience everything. So when you come back, you don't have to continually die over and over and over again to have these experiences. You've experienced them, and then you know. Possibly using cannabis or something, and like, I'm just stuck. I don't know how to do it. Maybe if I try this one time and it opens me up, and it's like, now I know it's possible. It's a possibility you could use this as a tool, just like you do with crystals. Crystals are a tool also, and I was going to ask you, do you use crystals, the rocks, minerals? Oh, there you go. You'll have to speak before they can see you. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I use crystals. I like crystals. They're cool.
There you go. That looks like amethyst, and what's the other one?
Amethyst and just quartz. It's a blue aqua quartz. Really cool. Love it. It looks like the stuff off of the TV show Breaking Bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't watch television. I don't know that show.
I posted a picture of it on Facebook, and they're like, "Hey, you got blue meth from Breaking Bad." Nah, it's blue aqua quartz. Really cool stuff.
Oh, funny. Since we're showing up crystals, so I've got black velvet tourmaline. Of course, I've got my huge amethyst over here in the background.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful back there. I see that.
Oh gosh, yeah, it cost enough, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's why I know that.
But I was so happy I did it. And by the way, just, you know, some unsolicited advice: don't stick your head in that. I did that the other night. I'm gonna do a whole video on what happened after I stuck my head in that. So just don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that they're real. And even when we talk about crystals, like we did a whole show on crystals in the Bible. And how these crystals hold.
Are you kidding?
Yes, we did it. I gotta find it though.
Tell me more. I mean, you don't have to tell us the verse, but what did you learn?
Yeah. Well, no, just understanding that crystals hold energy. They transmit energy, and so that, like, if you're going to a crystal shop, and what I would just encourage you to do is just to pick one up and hold it in your hand. Hold one in your right, one in your left, and feel the energy. If you feel a connection with it, buy it, keep it. You know, and you can actually feel it if you're sensitive. And so in the Bible, we talk about, you know, like kings and kings and rulers. They have a scepter. They have a magic wand with a crystal on the end of it, which would be like a diamond or a ruby or different crystals. And
you're absolutely correct about that. And then they've got the crowns with all the jewels on the crown.
Yes, and they are done actually on the crown for a reason. To understand that these different
crown chakra.
And these different gems and these different crystals bring about a different vibration and authority and control and different things. So they can use this technology for a bad way, and that's what we see a lot going on too. You know, people using it for bad, or when we see occult, it's about summoning demons to, you know, come kill somebody or put a hex on somebody. So it's all about intention. This science is real. So in the Bible, what you have is what is called the ephod, and it's a breastplate. And on the breastplate, they had different crystals lined up. There was 12, one representing each tribe, and they had them arranged in a certain manner. And so when the priest would put this ephod on, this breastplate, he would go into the Holy of Holies and he would communicate with God. And this, this breastplate would put him in a certain vibration frequency where he's able to receive. Because the whole thing about spirituality or whatever, it's all about intention. So whatever you put out, whatever you give is what you're going to get back. And then it's the same thing with meditation. A lot of church people would think that meditation is demonic. And it's like, it's a tool, just like prayer. Prayer is a tool. Prayer is good, but if you're praying to the devil and you're praying to summon demons, yeah, you're getting into some pretty shady, evil, demonic stuff. So just like meditating, So to clear your mind and to go to God, to get in touch with your higher self, it's all about intention and it's all about experience. So
you were talking about like a breastplate or something. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. Now, I believe it's called the ephod.
When they were, I'm so bad at terminology, but basically the thought process and what needs to control you is not something up here inside of your head, but I believe it should come from the heart. So that's probably very interesting that it was a breastplate to go and communicate with God or above.
Yeah, and I mean all this stuff like it was just like different voodoo encounters and stuff in the Bible. Like there was a experience in the Old Testament where Abraham had an encounter with God, and then the presence of God left, and he wanted to summon God again. So what he did is he got all these different animals and he killed them all, and he made a circle out of them, and he got in the middle of this circle of dead animals and summoned God back to him. And so like that's an example of what they're doing as far as voodoo, over in Africa, that a lot of people believe that whenever you kill an animal or kill a person, that this spirit's crossing over into the other side, and therefore you create a rip, and then you can get through that rip, or you can pull something back from that rip. And so that's what they're doing. So he kills all these animals, and as their spirit ascends, he's like, getting God's attention. And that's what a lot of people are doing in Africa as well with, with voodoo and things like that. And so yeah, there's so all this stuff. And this is what I study. I study like all this stuff, and I find it in the Bible. It's full of all types of stuff: encounters, dreams, visions, going into trances. You could just do a word study on the word trance or trances in the Bible, and you'll find all these places where they were getting caught up into a trance. They were having a dream, and this is something that they they did on a daily basis. They went into trances, and when you start to meditate, you usually go into a trance, and this is how you enter that realm, a real solace moment. So a lot of Christians, they have this weird mindset that these are all one-time things that happen once. So they think they were just going about their day, and then God pulled them into a trance. Do this, my son. No, this is a practice that the ancient people did. Like Christianity in the Bible, it comes from the East. This is all regular practices in the East. So we get this in the West, which was a spiritual practice and spirituality in the East, and bring it to the West, and we commercialize it. We modernize it, and so we read it and we interpret it from someone who lives in Georgia, and they think it's about them and speaking to them. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand the context of all of it. All of it has its own context.
When you're talking about a rip, using that term, because when I died and popped out of my body, I saw that there was a membrane, if you will, that was covering this planet. Are you talking about opening up this membrane, like possibly a portal that's being created?
Like a portal to the other side, and that's where someone who is into like black magic or some deep dark Satanism, to where they're doing sacrifices, animal sacrifices, and children coming up missing and things like that. This is something that exists as well. They're using the same technology for the for the dark, for evil purposes. And what they'll do is they'll try to open up a portal to pull a spirit through, or for them to go through themselves. And it's it's all about intention. The science of it all is real. The science is real, and it's all backed up in scripture and things like that. So.
Like in the churches and in all religions, do you feel like intentionally or unintentionally, a lot of people, I'm talking millions of people, are accidentally, intending to pray to God or something higher, that they're being tricked into praying to something lower and giving it more power and energy? Do you see that happening?
You got both. It's both. It's like when they set up. So like when you go into church and you go into a big congregation, we're even talking about the mega churches, and they play music, they get into worship. And this is the thing too, like people are like going into worship at these services with their eyes closed and hands raised for 45 minutes straight, and they're getting visions, they're hearing voices, God's telling them things about their life and giving them healing, like all types of stuff's going on in this ceremony. And so when we talk about trances, it's something that as simple and as practical as listening to the drum beat and the rhythms and the patterns and summoning up, putting you in this conscious state, this higher state of vibration. So when you're there, see, the hard thing about it is it's a beautiful thing to do that, to get together and to fellowship and to open up these higher realms of existence. But the scary thing, what you're talking about for something negative, is the fact that the message that comes next. So we got you in this mystical experience. You know that I have spiritual authority, but the words that come next are usually what's real potent. So they'll like teach crazy doctrines or whatever that'll make them on this pedestal, or they'll teach doctrines that say you have to give this money or God's not going to bless you. And I went through that, and it was like this crazy heavy bondage on me that me and my family owed God money. Like this is something that the churches teach. They call it tithing, and they teach that you owe God money. When you get your paycheck, you owe God 1/10 of that. And when you break it down, other churches and ministries teach that you owe God more like 20 to 35% of that.
The prosperity doctrine people.
Yeah, and so they'll, it's not even all prosperity, like, because a lot of people rely on this money to keep their churches going and to, you know what I'm saying? So ego's in it. Ego's in it, because if you don't give,
I see ego in the mega churches. Yes, I do.
If you don't give, I don't eat. Or, you know what I'm saying? Not that
I don't get my second home in the mountains.
I can't pay the pool guy. The pool guy's coming to clean the pool, and I can't pay him unless you know. And that's how that works.
So true. So true.
Because there's all types of hidden agendas in there with it, and telling you, and it's so much, man, you can get into, and but it's all demonic, and that's. See, we're talking about witchcraft, we're talking about black magic. There's more witchcraft and black magic going on in a service like that versus someone going to a new age, you know what I'm saying, yoga session where they're doing chanting and meditation and stuff like that. There's more dark energies being tampered with in a lot of these church services, and it's scary.
I believe that. I had guilt and all kinds of stuff when I went to church. And when I finally left the church because of corruption, I mean literal corruption, where a member of the church misappropriated funds. That kind of corruption was going on, not just in the doctrine. I left, and after I left, I have many videos on this, but I found God, basically. And then when I went through my near-death experience, I was in the presence of the Creator. I'd no longer call it God, the Creator of this universe. So church was actually separating me from the Creator of this universe.
Yeah.
When I connected, that's when everything started happening in my life.
Yeah, and it is, and it's like, but it's like a stepping stool, and so you gotta not judge people or not look at them as less of spiritual or less of a educated, because they're stuck in that place. That's part of the spiritual alchemy too. I started out there. I was preaching their doctrines. I was, telling Hindus that God hated them and things like that, and some crazy stuff.
I went on some mission trips myself.
You got to transcend that and understand that you didn't do anything for God to love you, Mr. Christian. What'd you do? Well, I prayed and asked Jesus to forgive me. Well, what did you do? You didn't do anything. Like the same love that you experienced, you're supposed to carry that. And this is what I tell people. I'm only going to show you the compassion that was shown to me. And like God, I believe God showed me compassion, that he reached down and touched me. So I'm not going to give you no more or no less than what I've experienced. And so that should be evident of the light that's within me. And that's how Christ told people that you would, you would know that they were of his sect, that they believed in his teachings, because you would know them by their love. not by their dogma, not by their doctrine, you know. And he also taught that the way to judge people. Now you know at the same time you should judge people because there's a godly judgment. There's a judgment that, okay, I don't need to hang around you because you are a violent person. And every time I bring up so and so, you want to fight, blah blah blah. So Jesus says to judge people by their fruit. That a good tree is going to bring forth good fruit. A bad tree is not going to produce a good fruit. An apple tree, no matter how long you stand there and tell it to produce an orange, it's not going to produce an orange. So he likens this to the way we are to judge people or judge our interactions with people and see if we want to continue with them or something like that. That you hang around them long enough and eventually you will eat off of their fruit. And if they're a bad person, even though they got a good facade, they shake your hand and come with the Bible. Hey, brother, this is what I believe. And like, well, how you say you believe that? And you're the way you treat people, and you're racist, and you're overindulgent in food and things like this, and you're not spiritual at all. But you follow Christ, and you don't look like him at all. You don't love. You have hatred and bitterness and things like that. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. You know what? You have been one of the most interesting guests that I have ever interviewed. You've
had some very interesting guests.
I know.
Awesome people in here.
Yeah. You're so excited about that. I was excited about that. So, I have another page of questions to ask you. So, but we're running out of time, and we're running out of time at this point. You know, the YouTube gets a little crazy when I get past an hour. So, would you mind coming on again another time?
Totally. I'm totally open. This is what I love to do. I love, to touch people. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, fantastic. So, guys,
we'll do this. If people leave comments and they want me to come back on, or they say no, he's just some religious guy, watch out for him. We'll just leave it up to the people. If you want me back on, leave comments, leave as many comments as you want, and make this video go viral, and then I'll come back on. Let's do that.
There we go. That's great. And ask questions. We want to know what they want to know from you. So please, guys, put questions down there for the next interview. And by the next interview, I think I'm going to get some bugs worked out, and we may even be able to take questions from the audience because they just added that to the Hangouts. But I didn't want to practice on you because I knew you had a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and there's so much more. I mean, it's and I just want to leave with this message that spirituality is beautiful, that it's not about dogma, it's not about race or religion or creed, it's about divine love and showing people that you love and that you care. If you don't care about them, then don't show it. Obviously people aren't, but if you do have that love, that overwhelming love, that you need to connect with it, spend time with people and show them that you love and care about them, and don't look down on nobody because they're different. That's my message.
Well, but before you go, can you please, and we're going to put it in the description, can you please tell everybody where they can find your music and buy it and listen, and how they can promote you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you like this podcast, if you like the if you like the music, I get a lot of people saying that they like it. I don't have like a huge budget to promote or anything, so basically just sharing my videos. I have we touch on a lot of subjects that we talked about today. I've got music, and I talk about my experiences in my music. So if you like it, share it, make it go viral, post it everywhere. And definitely you can go to my website at TruthSeekahMusic.com. It's Truth SEEKAH music.com, and all of my videos are there. I do blogs and stuff as well, and vlogs. So I'm active on Facebook and social media. I'd love to connect with anybody out there. So
wonderful, absolutely wonderful. That is fantastic. I threw something at my husband. He's over there snoring. So Jack, stop snoring. Good grief, he's over there.
Thanks for having me on, though, Kelly.
Thanks for being on this show. Oh gosh, this was just fabulous. I really appreciate you doing this. But unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to everybody. So, guys, if you like him, please promote him. He is at the place right now where we need spiritual artists out there. We need spiritual artists in all genres, but hip-hop especially, because you're going to be attracting a lot of people who have gotten into the muck. And also, we really need to promote him and get him out there. And we're trying to hook him up with a really good agent, one of the top agents, and see where he can go. So you guys saw him here on the Kelli and the Raw show. So Derek TruthSeekah, It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you on the show, and
Thanks for
I
having
hope
me.
to have you back very, very soon. So,
Well,
all
we'll
right,
leave it
guys.
up to the fans.
Yeah, we will leave it up to them. Let us know what they want. So, all right,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.